Pakistan's horror show in Test matches continues as they've lost to England in the first match by an innings, and this is even after they amassed 556 in the first innings. Now, lost by an innings, big margin, and remember this comes after two back-to-back losses against Bangladesh at home, and I think they've lost 7 out of the last 9 matches. So, Ayaz, what are we seeing, and where are they going from here?
I mean, they're in a shambles. This is a shambolic performance, as you mentioned rightly. I mean, almost 1,400 runs scored by the two teams in the first innings, and everybody was, complaining about the pitch that is flat as dead as a dodo. It's like a runway at an airport, and so on and so forth. And some tall scores from Pakistan, and then for the match to turn around, I think it's the approach of the English team. We've had too many and many conversations about baseball and how it has influenced Test cricket or not. But to watch them make 827 on this pitch, the pitch was flat, there's no doubt, and the bowling was even flatter. Pakistan's bowlers just don't seem to have the the wherewithal, not just in terms of skills, but the energy, the self belief that they can get wickets, and it's been beginning to show everywhere wherever they played against Bangladesh earlier and now. But even so, for England to come back and win this match, to me, Anirudh, interestingly, it strikes parallels with India's victory over Bangladesh in what, just about little over 2 days, not too long back. That seemed like a match which was consigned to be a draw after rain had ruined the first 2 or 3 days. And then India pulled off a remarkable win. This is equally remarkable, and it just shows or suggests to me that there's an astonishing new dimension which has come into Test cricket with the approach of these two teams, the captains, the way they have captained the teams, the overall the desire to go out and get a result, come what may, I think has been quite astonishing.
Yeah, so I was about to get to that point. So, like you mentioned, India won that remarkably won that match against Bangladesh in about 2.5 days, and you see England doing the same. I think England did. They forced the result. Last time they were on tour with Ben Stokes, and that's where baseball was highlighted all the more. But uh, with us not seeing these many draws or even a few draws in Test cricket all over the globe, why do you think the PCB or Pakistan insist on having such pitches? I mean, you can understand them going for a draw, but they're not even getting draws; they're getting beaten comprehensively. So, what is the thinking?
I don't know if there's any thought in Pakistan cricket currently, in the administration, in the way the captains have been kind of trying to take the teams into a match and surviving in a match. And I use the word surviving, deliberately, because we saw them against Bangladesh, the way they completely crumbled. It just seems to me Pakistan is at sixes and sevens with itself. They just don't seem to know the team selection, who to pick, and if they picked, what should be the strategy. And if the strategy is not working, how is it a plan B or a plan C? It just seems to me, like a little Bo Peep scenario, and just going there like almost like innocent lambs for the slaughter. We've seen them lose last 3 matches that they played at home. You mentioned 7 out of 9 overall they've lost, which is a bad enough ratio in itself. But 3 out of 3 at home is I mean, I can't think of a poorer performance by Pakistan ever. And these are I think what's also happened, Anirudh, is that all their stars have turned out to be duds. Babar Azam is struggling. He seems to have an existential problem now. Whether he is a high quality batsman or not, on the evidence of what we've seen in the past few matches, certainly not. Shaheen Shah Afridi, Naseem Shah, who were picked not too long back as two of the most competitive, dangerous, skillful bowlers, fast bowlers around, they can't seem to get a wicket in their first spell, or the second spell, or the last spell. So, I mean, they don't have spinners who can measure up to international quality standards, as we see now. Abrar Ahmed, the mystery bowler, there's no mystery. I mean, uh, I don't want to sound contemptuous, but bowlers like these you'll find, you know, almost every league in Bombay on Maidan cricket who are playing there. So I think there's a lot that Pakistan need to introspect. As I mentioned, right from the establishment itself, from the administration to the players. It's all right to call yourself all kinds of fancy names. You know, which works on social media, but unless it is backed by performance, it just rings so hollow.
Yeah. But I'll tell you one man who doesn't mind playing on these pitches, and that is Joe Root. I mean, we've spoken about him a couple of weeks ago, where he was inching closer to Alistair Cook, and we were talking about whether he can surpass Sachin. So now he's scored a double century. He's gone past Sir Alistair Cook to become England's highest scorer in Test matches, and he's inching closer to Sachin. And uh, if this keeps on happening, if they tour Pakistan every other year, who knows? He might go past Sachin, and maybe even Kohli would want to go to Pakistan for a series or two.
Yes, I mean whether Kohli goes or not, it's too far fetched at this moment. But
Yeah.
but about Joe Root, I can tell you, at least in the red ball format, he's just moved way ahead of his competitors. The Fab Four, as we used to call them, a little euphemistically, but no longer. I think that Joe Root. I mean, there was a stage not too long back, maybe 2-3 years back, when he was the bottom of the top of the Fab Four. Now he's right back on top, and he's just relentless. And we talk about the fitness of somebody like Virat Kohli, which is exemplary. Look at Joe Root. I mean, he just doesn't seem to be, nothing seems to fatigue him. He's just a run glutton. He's a run machine. And now he's got another double hundred. He's way past Alistair Cook as the highest run getter, heading towards Sachin's record. It's not so easy to get. Remember, it just starts getting more and more difficult once you're 30 in your mid 30s, or you're in the late 30s. But right now, I think he's moved clearly ahead of Virat Kohli, Steve and Steve Smith, who seem to have kind of. Virat Kohli has not had too many Test matches in the recent past, except against Bangladesh. But even so, and Kane Williamson, who's also made a lot of runs. But I think Joe Root has thrown the gauntlet at them. Catch me if you can.
Yeah, well said. So, coming back to India now. So, recently saw India beating Bangladesh 2-0 in a home T20 series. So, surprise, surprise, India win again at home. But these are the world champions, but this is not the side. It's almost completely different to the side that picked up the trophy in Barbados. So, uh, it may be a bit blasphemous to say so, but do you think this side looks like a more specialist T20 side than the ones with the veterans in it? And the reason I ask you this is we saw the approach even after losing early because they were pushing hard to go past 200. So, do you think we're finally at a stage in Indian cricket where it's okay to have specialist one format specific players?
I think it's the abundant richness of talent in India which is coming through. I mean, even for the T20 team, right now there are two or three claimants for each spot, and you're not even counting guys like Jadeja, Kohli, and Rohit who have announced themselves as not going to be playing T20. Even without them, there is a massive kind of battle for places in the Indian team. So if A doesn't do well, there's B, C, and D to fall back on. Look at the facility for the team management and for the captain and for the coaches. Likewise in ODIs, and likewise I think in Test matches where of course the three I mentioned earlier, Jadu and Virat and Rohit come back. So there is a massive influx of high quality talent, and this is really the issue. I think Pakistan have got you can tom and make people into big names, but it's about delivery. It's about performance in the middle, and that's where India has been top class, showing it. I mean, yes, so has Australia, and in this match, I thought England was really good. To get 20 wickets on this kind of a pitch was phenomenal. And then Harry Brook, he's one of those guys who's an all-format player. 300 in a Test match, second fastest ever after Viru Sehwag, and he just seems to love playing in Pakistan and feasting on the Pakistan bowling. So I think the message which is coming out very clearly from India's performances and from Pakistan's performances, and of course, what England has done so far, and going ahead, we see against Australia, against New Zealand, you have to have a very rich supply of quality talent. If that doesn't happen, because there's so much cricket being played, two, three players hit poor form, then you start struggling. India has not been struggling because they've just got too many options available. And then once you've got the options, you still need to show the intent, the desire, the energy, the focus, you just don't take your eyes off the ball when it comes to winning. I think that's what's making a difference for India. And where Test cricket is concerned, I must make this point, Anirudh. There's a clear demarcation emerging, or has emerged over the last maybe 2-3 years, is getting even more stronger, which is teams like India, Australia, uh, England, and New Zealand are being separated from the others. And I'll include South Africa there also in the others, because apart from playing in South Africa, they struggle elsewhere. So South Africa, Pakistan, West Indies, Bangladesh, they're the stragglers. So there's a big divergence coming up between the top four and the bottom five.
So moving on to the Women's T20 World Cup, which is also going on. So India had a disastrous start with a big loss to New Zealand, but they bounced back against Pakistan and had a necessary dominant win against Sri Lanka. They're right now second in the group table behind Australia, and they're by no means through to the semis because they still have to depend on the results of the others. So, how do you assess their performance so far?
I think they started sluggishly. It looked like they've not had enough kind of warm up or build up or practice going into the tournament, which can't be an excuse because this is a World Cup and you knew it was coming up. Maybe the venue has changed, but the fact of the tournament being a World Cup hasn't changed. So, but the good thing is that key players like Mandhana, Jemima, and certainly Harmanpreet Kaur, Shefali Verma, they've all hit good form, rich form. So Renuka Singh doing very well with the new ball. Spinners are doing well. It looks like the Indian team we know of, the women's team. But of course, they've got their nemesis, Australia, and then of course some of the other teams. You don't want to leave everything to luck. So I think that the onus is on India to go and show themselves as a champion team.
So yeah, as we mentioned earlier, New Zealand's Test series coming up next week. So we'll come back to you after that, and we'll also keep you updated on the Women's T20 World Cup. So yeah, that's it for this episode of Sports Room. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Anirudh. Catch up soon.